G'day avocado enthusiasts and welcome to Scott Grows an Avocado Tree. On this channel I like to do lots of things with avocado trees and today is just like that. I've seen around the internet people making avocado tree bonsais, but I haven't actually done that myself and I'm going to change that today. Last year, I started germinating lots of avocado seeds in bags. Most of those ended up in the avocado lagoon, but some didn't, some got forgotten about, and now we have got a rather overgrown tree in here that is quite bent, very strange, but I thought it would make the perfect bonsai. So today, we're going to be bonsaiing this tree. Bonsais first started being developed in Japan in the 12th century, so over 700 years ago. People have since then been enjoying bonsai all over the world. There's no one particular species of bonsai, rather, bonsai just describes the work of making a tree in dwarf version, and there's different practices that we do for that. I'm going to be going over the very basics here because I'm no expert. I'm an avocado enthusiast and I enjoy and appreciate bonsais, and I'm keen to have a little go myself here today. So without too much more further ado, let's get making. So first, let's check out the state of this avocado tree. Okay, so I need to take it out and I'm not really sure what to expect here. There's a bit of slimy paper, which is a bit gross, but oh, it's quite grown into the paper as well. We've got to break it away. Okay, it's become quite entrenched in there. And it's gotten quite entangled with its neighboring seed as well. So I'm gonna have to be gentle as I pull it apart. I don't want to damage the roots too much. I'm gonna give them a little prune as they go into the pot, but we'll do that in just a second. So I'll try and get rid of the paper as best I can. There's another tree that's just started growing. Cool. We'll put him back in there for now. So I have got my very strange looking avocado tree. It's got quite a bend, as you can see there, and not a huge root system actually. It's less than I was expecting. It's gotten quite twisted around itself, which I was thinking if it had a good taproot, I'd be trimming that to encourage it to thicken up a little bit. We know that it's not awesome to prune the roots, but it's not unusual to prune roots just before they go into a bonsai pot. It stunts the growth. They're dwarf trees. But I don't actually think I'm going to need to be doing that with this one. I want to make sure that I've gotten rid of as much paper as I can. I imagine that it's not going to be a huge problem just because this is just paper towel, but I don't want to have anything which will cause root rot in the pot. So I've got my young tree. It's not looking awesome, but I think it is redeemable. So I'm going to take a bonsai pot. Now these are pots specifically for bonsais. They're shallow, they're not very large, and they have good sized drainage holes. We don't want a tree to get root rot, and small roots mean they don't need a lot of space. So we're going to just think about how I'm going to situate it. I think I'm going to have the seed just visible above the soil, and yeah, I think that'll be good. So I'm now going to begin filling my pot with soil. I have mixed this potting medium. This is 2 parts perlite, 1 part coconut coir peat, and 1 part just cheap potting mix. There's also a little bit of slow release fertilizer mixed in there, and I'm just going to spoon it into the bottom of the pot. Once I've got a bit of a bed there, I can place the seed on top and cover up all the roots. The roots aren't looking too bad. I was expecting to have a few dead ones because they've been in the bag for so long, but they're actually not looking too bad. So I'm going to now cover all of the roots with my potting mix. And that is pretty well it for today, actually. So I have just planted my avocado seed, the young avocado tree, into this bonsai pot with some well-draining medium that I use for other avocado trees. Now I'm going to water it, and I'm going to set it in a prop box for the next little while. It's been in a sealed plastic bag for the last like 6 months, so I'm afraid that bringing it out into the open air where there's much lower relative air humidity than in the plastic bag, I'm afraid that that might just cause a bit too much shock, and I don't want it to die. So I'm going to put it in a humidity control environment, my prop box, where we have pretty well high 90s, even 100% humidity in there for the next little while, so that we give it the best chance of doing well. After that, we're going to be thinking about shaping it, but I just want it to establish itself first, then we will talk about shaping. And hopefully this doesn't die and we get a much longer video. Otherwise, I guess I'll finish it in a moment. It has been 40 days since I potted up the very young avocado tree, and good news, it has continued to grow. It has now got some leaves, which it didn't have before, and it's really started getting taller. As you can see, it's really starting to grow up, which is what trees do. Due to geotropism, they want to grow away from the Earth's center of gravity. They want to grow up, which is what it's doing here. But this is bonsai. I get to choose what it does, and I think instead of going up, I'd like it to grow across first, and then we'll see what we do. So my plan at this stage is to have this bend kind of continue and form this as the main trunk, and then we'll see. I'm hoping that these nodes will start growing some branches at some point, which we can do some shapely things with, but that's longer term probably, beyond the scope of this video here. But for now, I'd like to shape the main trunk of the tree so that it goes this way a little more, and at some point we'll probably start pruning it, but not yet. So for today, I need to do something to shape it, because if I don't do anything now, it's just going to continue to grow straight up, which is not what I want. When you're doing your bonsai, you can do whatever you like. This is bonsai. We are getting to shape these little trees ourselves. It's our choice. So there are a number of ways that I could shape it. Now, I'm not a bonsai expert, but I've done some reading, and lots of people will use bonsai wire at this point because it's very sturdy and can be shaped. It can be used to wrap around the tree to help it go in one direction. Luna might have other ideas, we'll see. She's okay. But I am actually going to use a weight for this one. So it doesn't need a lot of weight at this point. I'm just going to use this knife. It's stainless steel. It's just a butter knife. And I'm going to use some string. So this should be fairly straightforward. I am going to take my string and give myself a little bit extra length to cut it. Then I don't want to strangle the tree itself, so I'm going to see how I go, just making a little hoop at one end of the string so that I can kind of feed it through. I don't want it to be tight on the trunk. That's going to cause problems long term, though this isn't going to be on it long term, just long enough for it to kind of set in position as it grows, which it will do. So I've just made this little loop, and I'm going to kind of lasso the avocado tree. And the other side I'm going to tie to the knife. Now I'm not a knot expert either, so I'm just kind of doing granny or reef knots. Then I'm gonna have the knife sitting on the pot. At the moment, it's not doing much of a job at holding it down, but my theory, or my hypothesis with this knife is that I can kind of rotate it a little bit to kind of wind it in, a bit like a reel. And
I think that should do it. So I've laid down the stem and it's going to grow in this pattern now, so in the shape that I have made for it. It might continue to grow up towards the end, and as that happens, I will add more string. And I'm thinking almost of doing that now. I don't think I quite need to though, so I'm going to leave it as is for now, and we'll keep checking on it every couple of weeks. I will, and we'll see where it goes. Let's give it a bit more time. I'm going to return it back to the prop box where it's a little bit warmer. It is autumn now and it's almost winter here at the time that I'm doing this, so I want to keep it growing, and heat is going to be helpful for that. So I'm going to put it back in the prop box and we'll check on it in a little while.
Another month and a half has passed since our last update, so it's been 83 days since I started this avocado bonsai, when I transplanted the avocado plant into this pot. And now it's looking pretty good. As you might be able to tell from just seeing this, I have moved the kind of hoop along to keep that bend going, and without it, it's starting to take some shape. So you can see that branch, or this trunk, has started to grow this way, but it's still trying to push up that way. So we will continue to keep this on, as is my plan for the design of this tree. So we will keep it on there until it doesn't need it. I'm also starting to notice that there is this branch here, which has started to get some growth on it. My goal for that one is so that it would keep coming out this way, and we'll get a nice thick canopy there. We do have a dead branch there, so I'm just going to twist that off. That should come off fairly easily, just like that. That gets discarded, and any other dead bits that'll just fall off by itself. So this tree is coming along beautifully. What are the next steps for this tree now though? Well, I'm going to continue to let it grow, having its main trunk continue this way across the pot, keeping fairly low. Then I'm hoping that it's going to start putting some branches out. Once the trunk has gotten to the point where I don't want it to grow anymore, I will twist off the end, taking off the primary meristem, which will mean that it stops growing longer, and then it will start creating more meristematic zones from the nodes so that it continues to grow branches. It's already got one there, so I'm feeling pretty confident about that. In terms of watering, this is in a very small pot, and so it's going through its water quite quickly. There are a lot of roots in this small space, and so they're taking out the moisture very quickly, and also just because it's smaller, it just means that it's drying out faster. The ratios of how much soil, how much surface area, there's a lot more surface area, so it's going to dry out a lot faster. Even though I've been keeping it in a fairly high humidity area, I'm still watering it at least once a week, and this is during winter now. So keeping an eye on the water is going to be important for me as it continues to grow, because if I let it dry out too much, it's just going to die. So I'm feeling really encouraged by my tiny avocado tree. It doesn't have many leaves yet, but over the next little while, and especially as we come into our growing months here in Australia, it's going to start putting out more of those, and we're going to have a nice little bonsai tree on our hands. But I will stop following it for this video. I might make an update in a year or so, based on how I have shaped it, but I would like to share this with you now, so that's why you're watching this now. But what are some of the key takeaways if you want to do this yourself? I think for me, I found it really helpful already having a growing plant to then put into a bonsai pot. So having germinated some seeds in a plastic bag told me which ones were growing, and I was able to pick one which I thought would do well. And it just happened that I'd left one in there for too long, so it started to develop a bend, and then naturally I wanted to continue that bend around. So my first tip is to start growing your seeds not in the pot. My second tip is to find a pot that you're happy with. Bonsai pots are generally a lot smaller than regular pots because you don't want it to grow too big. So if they've only got so much root mass, it can only support so much above the soil as well. So choosing a small pot, preferably a bonsai pot, is going to help you out with that. Thirdly, you need to think about planning and designing your tree. Bonsai really is an art form where we are shaping
designing and creating a tree to fit certain aesthetics or to look a certain way. So just like I wanted to continue this main branch around, that's something that you need to think about when you're growing your bonsai trees. And as it meets its goals, I will then think about what I want for it next. I already know that I'm not going to get too much longer than this before I stop the main trunk growing and hopefully get more of a canopy going around here. Fourth is make sure that it's getting plenty of water. If you're keeping it in a drier or sunnier spot, it's going to dry out faster, and even if you're not, it's going to dry out fairly quickly because it's in such a small container with lots of surface area. So it needs to be watered fairly regularly. I still use my moisture meter to check how much moisture is in the soil, and when it's getting dry, I water it. Doesn't take a lot to water it, but it does need to be watered a lot more frequently than other indoor plants that I'm keeping. I use a water-soluble fertilizer as well when I am watering this one. They're my main takeaways for today. I am having a lot of fun caring for this young tree. I'm looking forward to coming back in a year or so and seeing what shape it has taken. I am really enthused by the progress that it's made, that it's really established itself in this pot over the last 3 months, and that it's starting to take the shape that I wanted to through my intervention like we've got here. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope that you've enjoyed it and you are feeling inspired to perhaps have a go at doing this yourself. If you do end up having a go at this, feel free to share your results with me by posting under the hashtag on Instagram, hashtag #ScottGrowsAnAvocadoTree. I'd love to see some of your bonsais, or if you just like to share your avocados, you can do so there. You might even get them featured in a future video. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this video and you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to Scott Grows an Avocado Tree, and I am on Instagram at Scott Grows an Avocado Tree as well. If you enjoy videos that go into the curiosities of our world and the things around us, please check out my second channel. That's pretty cool, where I go into all sorts of different things, exploring and unpacking my curiosities and hope to instill a sense of wonder. Thanks once again for watching. Take care, and I will see you next time.
Scott grows an avocado tree. Scott grows an avocado tree. Scott grows an avocado tree. Scott grows an avocado tree.